on later Apollo missions, then went on to link up with the Soviets and to build America's first space station, Skylab. That room had filled my childhood, and now here I was in 1980, standing on the threshold of this almost sacred space. The carpet and textured walls made it a quiet place, and the fact that everyone inside was talking softly on a headset made it even quieter. Many have compared it to stepping into a cathedral, and that feeling was palpable. This was a place where great things could and did happen. It demanded respect, and maybe even a bit of reverence. The lighting was low to make it easier to read the digital displays and the arrays of event lights. Flight controllers reached quietly and calmly for books from behind their consoles, stacking them in piles of open binders to cross-check information. There was no panic. It was all matter of fact. But it was exciting beyond measure, for I knew that they were training to fly the very first Space Shuttle mission. I remember going with one of my mentors to visit the control center. He needed to talk to a flight controller who was working a simulation for the first shuttle flight. The controller was in a back room somewhere doing a support job, and it was common to bother someone in that position during training. We walked into the back room, a room full of consoles and an even larger array of books than were in the front room, and found the person we needed to see. He looked up and waved us silent. He was obviously listening to the voice loops. "What can I do for you?" he asked after a minute or so. "I've got about 5 minutes before we come up on Hawaii, and when we get the signal, I'll have 3 minutes to verify the platform alignment before we lose them, and they will be doing the deorbit burn after that. So we've got to get that right, but I have a minute, so what do you need?" I realized then and there that multitasking was going to be an important skill to perfect if I wanted to be successful. The Space Shuttle was the culmination of all we had learned about operating in space with human beings, and it was a huge leap in capability and technology. Yes, the Saturn V that sent men to the moon for the Apollo missions was taller, heavier, and could accelerate the spacecraft to much higher velocity. And yes, that spacecraft went far higher than low Earth orbit. It went to the moon. But as marvelous as it was, the Apollo spacecraft elements were still simple compared to the mechanical, electronic, and aerodynamic complexity of the Space Shuttle. The Space Shuttle was capable of carrying up to 50,000 pounds into orbit in a payload bay almost 60 feet long and 12 feet in diameter. Not only could it loft that large cargo, it could bring a huge amount back. Up until the shuttle, returning items from space was almost as costly as lofting them into orbit in the first place, and little had ever come back, save a few hundred pounds of moon rocks, and of course the astronauts. Not only could the shuttle take a lot to orbit and back, the spacecraft itself was reusable, unlike all the Apollo, Gemini, and Mercury capsules that now decorate museums across the country. A spacecraft that looked like an airplane and could fly back to a runway was what we had all dreamed of while watching Saturday morning cartoons and movies about space travel. It was a leap of imagination, an incredible technological achievement, and perhaps a little bit of magic. I had never really planned on entering the world of mission control, or NASA for that matter. From my earliest memories, I was enamored with anything that flew. But in those early youthful years, there were no spacecraft, so I concentrated on airplanes. I built models that didn't fly, then I moved on to those that did, and eventually I was given the opportunity to work on and fly full-sized craft. Of course, the excitement that went along with the early space missions captured my attention as well, and my math educator father kept me engaged with NASA reports and information he received at his job in the state education department. I built model rockets, and I probably knew more about the space program than anyone else at school. If it flew, I could be counted on to talk about it endlessly. Despite my immersion into space missions as a child, I really wanted to build and fly airplanes for a living. If you had asked those who knew me as a child, they all would have said that I was captivated with rocketry, and of course I'd go to NASA. But I was